Everyone dreams of living an uncommon life, and the best asset you have to achieve your dreams is you. Welcome to the Uncommon Wealth Podcast. We're going to introduce you to people who are living uncommonly. We're also going to give you some tools and strategies for building wealth and for pursuing an uncommon path that is uniquely right for you.
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Uncommon Wealth Podcast, where I'm your host, Phillip Ramsey. Today we have an in-studio guest, Gabe Chamberlin. And so I'm going to give you kind of my one word when I think of Gabe Chamberlin, and then we're going to talk about his bio because he's got a lot going on. But my one word for you, Gabe, is mission. Like you're just always on like a mission. You're intentional. Your life is a mission. You're a Christ follower. You're also one of my wholesalers. You're a retirement plan specialist at Transamerica.
Yeah.
And that's how we connected first.
It is.
And so what would you say your bio is? Because I can go down the Transamerica route. I can go down the whole friend route. What would you say your bio is?
That's a really good question. You know, I think when somebody in the work side of my life asks me that, it is I'm a retirement plan specialist. Outside of work, it's, I'm a Christian, I'm a father, I'm a musician, I'm many things. I would say that, sitting here today, I'm a Christ-following retirement plan wholesaler who loves his family and tries to honor and glorify God with his thoughts and his words and his actions.
Kind of like you're on a mission.
Like I'm on a mission.
There you go.
Yeah,
see?
Very much so.
Nailed it. All right. So I've had, I think, 2 or 3 wholesalers on the show in the past, but never like this, because they've always talked about, hey, this is the product that we're selling or this, that, and the other. I feel like we're going to talk very little about Transamerica.
Probably.
And I think the first time you called me, you were like, hey, let me take you out to lunch. Or I'll take you to a drink or something.
Yeah.
You remember this?
Yes, I do. I asked if you wanted to go have a drink, and you're like, yeah, sure. And we went to someplace here in Ankeny.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. And you had a root beer.
I sure
and
did.
I was like, oh, thank you. Like, I wish I would have had a root beer. Or we could have met over a coffee instead of out for a beer.
And that was like the first time I was like, okay, this guy's a little different. Because there's just so many wholesalers out there. And quite honestly, like nothing against wholesaling, but it's kind of a shady... It's just a lot going on. You're traveling a lot. You're away from your family. And so there's openings to just do things because you're on your own, whatever you want to say on that part. But it just doesn't seem like it's the most brightest, like it's a hard career. And so when you find somebody that's uncommon, you stick out, and I love it. You know me, I kind of quite fond of uncommon. So we had our first, I'd say, root beer and whatever. I think you were drinking water. Like it was nothing crazy.
Yeah.
And I remember like barely talking about Transamerica, but more about your faith. And that's when I got to hear your God story, which is amazing. And I got to hear a little bit more about your family. Yeah. We've gone on a double date, your wife and my wife and you. It was awesome. And then also you have been on The Uncommon Experience. We got to spend a weekend together, which was life-changing.
It was awesome.
And I want to talk a little bit about that later.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's first give you some time because you're married to the love of your life. You got some kids. Let's talk about them.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think kind of just maybe taking a step back to your point, like wholesaling, right? It is it is an environment, a job that's oftentimes gets a bad rap because people think you are a certain way. And early on in my career, I thought I had to be that way. And then I was like, that just doesn't feel comfortable. I felt slimy in my own skin, and it wasn't who I was. So I just kind of, again, went on a mission and was like, you know what? I'm going to be authentic, and I'm going to be who I am, wholesaling the same as I am when I'm at home, and trying to just be real, just be a real person. And so that, I've missed out on some opportunities probably in my career as a wholesaler because of that, but I've certainly developed relationships like I'm sitting here with you today that are far more than valuable
than those experiences.
So that's my job.
So quick, how do you stay, because we're in this, and I want to ask this, I want to make sure, and this is kind of the reason why I wanted you on, but I want to kind of get into more things. But how do you stay on mission for Jesus in such a worldly profession? And I think that can go to a lot of listeners of the Uncommon Wealth podcast, is because they might be working a 9-to-5 job, but they are on a mission to be able to have a higher calling and use that vocation as something that they glorify God with. And I feel like you do such a good job of that. So how have you kind of transitioned from that time when you're like, all right, I guess I have to play this part, to, no, I feel like God has a higher calling for me, and this is what I'm going to now do?
Yeah, it's tough. I think for me, it's always keeping eternity in mind, even during my meetings, right? And it is like knowing that, again, I have an authentic mission, and I say these 4 things to my kids every day, almost every day. We want to be kind, caring, love, and respect. Those are like our 4 core values as a family. And so I try to bring those to meetings and, be kind and caring and loving and respectful to these people. And I think that's different in a lot of ways, because I'm not going down, I don't talk about product. Very rarely do I ever start a meeting and it's like, let's dive into solutions. It's like, oftentimes, Phillip, I don't ever even talk about product. And so I think there's been meetings that I've had with people, like the meeting's over and they're like, hey, did you want to mention anything about product? And I was like, oh yeah, I'll send you an email, or we'll catch up again and we can talk about some solutions. Yeah. So I think it's keeping those 4 core values in mind.
And it's genuine. So I think there's a lot of wholesalers that try to do that tactic, but I don't think it's as genuine. So that's where I feel like you've really hit this spot for me, is it's genuine. Like I think there's a lot of people who like ask you about your business only to be able to then shove product under your belt. Like, I got the perfect solution. And you do a really good job because you're genuinely like, you want to be kind, caring, loving, and respectful. So
yeah, and I think the other part of that too is like there are some relationships where I'm like, I'm just not feeling it. It's just, this isn't a good fit. And so like, I genuinely care about the people that I'm inquiring about further. Like if I'm asking you those questions, because I really do care. And if I don't ask you those questions, then I'm probably like, I'm not feeling it and I really don't care. So we'll just move on, right?
So good. I love it. Okay, family.
Yeah.
Brooke. Let's
go. Married to Brooke, my wife. We've been married since 2009 officially. Wow. We've got 2 kids, got an 11-year-old daughter and 6-year-old son, Evelyn and Augustus are our kids' names. And it's a busy time of life, right? We're sports and events and all that stuff.
Right. Does your wife stay home?
She does. My wife's a stay-at-home mom, trying to pick up odds and ends. Job. I tell you what, I read an article in 2007 or 8 when we were considering whether she stays home or not. And the article was about, I can't afford for my wife to stay home. It actually says, I can't afford for my wife to stay home.
Oh, interesting.
Weird headline, right? Okay. And I'm like, I got to read this because I'm not understanding this. Right. I can't afford for my wife to stay home. And then it started to break down. If you hired a nanny or cleaning people or all the people to do all the things your wife is actually doing at home,
right,
you would be paying that person $100,000 a year, and you can't afford that. So you can't afford for your wife to stay home.
To stay home.
And so you might as well do it because you can't afford to pay other people to do it.
Right.
So it's been a blessing. Well, I tell you what, it's great.
Just the fact of like the house is running smoothly. And the people who are working like double income is great, but man, think about how chaotic that is.
I can't imagine.
It's just like, it's got to be so hard. So my wife as well stays home. It is such a blessing for our family and our kids to be able to have that. 100%. It has to be one of the hardest jobs though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, she has her days, right? And I try to remind myself to thank her. Be like, hey, like the food was great tonight. You did an amazing job. The house is clean and like all of these things are organized and in line. So good. It's great. Yeah.
Okay. So 2 kids.
2 kids.
Brooke, stay home. Let me ask you this quick. Mm-hmm. Where do you feel like you'd be if your wife didn't stay home? Like, what would your career path be? Like, have you ever thought about that? Or like, what ways have she supported you in order for you to get to where you're at?
Oh, wow. Well, I certainly probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today because prior to wholesaling, I was in another job that traveled a lot, a lot more than I do now, actually. I was flying all over the country, and she stayed home then. But that was the time that she transitioned from kind of, do I want to work? Do I want to stay home? She was worked at a salon, rented a chair. Oh. And she was very supportive of the job. Of course, the income was better.
Sure.
But we had to sacrifice some things, and part of it was her job. So she's been supportive the entire way. And it's finding like when I'm not traveling and I am home, it's like we're engaged. Let's go do something fun. Let's spend time together. Her and I have done lunch together, a couple of times in the last few weeks, which is like it's wonderful. Yeah. Yes. Right. We're just her and I. So it's
right. Where are you at now travel-wise, just for your vocation?
So usually it's like a Tuesday to Thursday or Tuesday to Friday. I'm traveling. So I'll do 1 week in Des Moines. And then the next week, like next week, for example, I'll be in Eastern Iowa the whole week. The week prior, I was in Omaha, Sioux Falls.
Okay.
So I try to be home, though. I try to sleep in my own bed as much as possible. So I do a lot of I rent a car all the time.
Yep.
And I do a lot of drive to Cedar Rapids, get done with meetings at 5 or 6, drive home, sleep in my bed, wake up early, drive out. Because I want to be able to be home, see my kids if I can, work out if I can, and then drive there. So next week is a heavy week. I have 3 nights in a hotel. Extremely unusual for me, though. Very unusual.
Heavy week.
That's a heavy week of being gone and sleeping in hotels. Yeah.
Right. All right. So let's talk about your God story because I love it.
Yeah.
So was your parents believers? Did they bring you to church or where did that start?
Yeah. So this was at about 2007. My mother was saved, and so was my sister. My mom, she was going to a church, and it was just a wonderful Christian lady. My dad, he was sort of in it, but not wholeheartedly. He hadn't been born again. He hadn't given his life. Going through the motions. And we grew up in a Catholic household, but that's a very different environment.
Sure.
It was,
faith plus works.
Faith plus works. Go confess your sins every Thursday or whatever. And so it felt more like a job, and that there was this God out there that just wanted to punish you for everything.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know how deep you want to get into my story, but we can go from.
Well, you give as much as you want to give, man.
Well, okay, so
this is your show. I'm just a part of it.
It's a crazy story, and I grew up a Catholic, and then I fell away from my faith. Going to college, I was living for myself. And just doing all of the things that people who are, well, not everybody, but I partied and I drank and I smoked and I got after partying. I played in a band, and so sort of the stereotypical band guy.
Okay. So you're a musician. I knew
Yes.
this, but the listeners didn't know this. And what's your instrument that you play?
I play guitar and have for a long time. I was the lead singer of that band, and still do a lot of musical things today with my church and some friends, which we can get into. So, I was living a crazy life in college and just worried about myself. I was only concerned with myself.
What college you go to?
Buena Vista University.
Oh, yeah. Buena Vista.
Storm
And
Lake.
when did you learn how to play guitar?
That would have been in college, probably 2001. There was a friend that lived down the hall named Nick Nystrom, still one of my really good friends.
Okay.
Played guitar and stopped by my room and heard I played, and we played guitar together for probably a year, Phillip, before he ever knew I sang. And he's like, we should start a band. I don't remember how the conversation went, but he mentioned we should start a band someday. And I was like, I could sing. He's like, what do you mean you sing? It's like, well, I sing a little bit. And then so we started a band, and we played our first show in like 2002 or something like that in college.
All right. But you were playing guitar before that.
Before 2001 or 2?
Yeah.
No,
I
just picked it up.
And he taught you.
Yeah, we kind of taught each other. Dave Matthews Band. It was big. We were like, let's learn some Dave Matthews Band.
That's pretty sweet.
So I had played instruments in high school, like a bass guitar in junior high, but no, I didn't pick up like an actual guitar.
Okay.
Until 2001, probably 2001.
All right, sorry, I made it distracted. All right, 2007, you were saved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So lots of bad decisions. Living for myself.
That's a tough life too.
It's a very tough life.
Interesting.
It didn't seem like it at the time, maybe necessarily, except for, sickly feeling and so getting all sorts of trouble. And I got in trouble with the law. And I had a history, unfortunately, from the day that I graduated high school until this 2007 of just constantly getting in trouble with the law. And it was always drinking. It was always alcohol.
That was your vice.
It was my vice. And it was a binge drinking problem that I had. And in 2007, I got into an unfortunate situation where I had drank way too much and blacked out and woke up in jail. And I had no idea why I was there.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I woke up and I didn't know.
And at this point, you were married, right?
No, we were.
Okay, 2007.
This is 2000, before we were married. So Brooke and I were together at the time.
Okay.
We had just started dating.
Man.
I bought a house in 2007. So I'd lived in this house a couple of months.
Okay.
Brooke moves in with me. So we're living together already.
Yeah.
2007. We were both living a crazy lifestyle.
Okay.
And I had this night out on the town the day after Thanksgiving in 2007.
Okay.
And I woke up in jail, and I had no idea
Wow.
why I was there. Like a complete, like, I thought maybe, I don't know, maybe I was walking home. And, I didn't know.
Right. But like a hangover movie type thing where you're
legit,
like no idea.
My eyes were almost bleeding, painful. Found out that, the jailer was like, yeah, we had to spray you with pepper spray last night.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And then they pull me out and they send me before the judge. And the judge says, you've been charged with second-degree robbery.
Unbelievable. You don't remember a thing.
I have no idea. And he's like, second-degree robbery against a Gregory Jones of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And I'm like, what? I don't know who that is. Second-degree robbery. What do you mean? And it was, my heart sank. And it's the craziest feeling I've ever had in my life. Because, second-degree robbery is a Class B felony, I believe.
Well, I wouldn't know that, but okay.
B or C, or I don't really know either.
But it's not great.
It's not great. And so, I get out they let you out on bail. I don't even remember what happened because I was so shocked. But I get out and I go home and to my wife, or my girlfriend at the time. And, we had a conversation, and she didn't know what happened either. She was out with me, but she had gone home before me. And then I had come home much later, or was trying to come home.
Yeah, right. Much later.
And she's like, I didn't know where you were. I'm scared, etc. And I explained to her what the judge said I did.
Yeah.
And now we have to start to put together the pieces.
Right. You got to figure out what just happened.
So it was, let's get a lawyer. Let's figure out I don't even know what happened. And so we had to get the deposition and all these things and figure out what really happened. And essentially what it came down to was that I was drinking too much in a bar. I got to the point where my bartender, who is a friend of ours, put me in a cab to send me home. The cab never got home. Somehow we ended up at a Casey's gas station, and evidently we got into an altercation, a fight. The cabbie and I got into a fight, and he felt like I was trying to take his money.
Oh.
And so when the cops came, they said, well, he's trying to take my money, and it was a fight. And because of that, it becomes second-degree robbery. Like I was fighting him to steal his cab
money.
fare.
Right.
And I don't remember any of this. I'm only reading it. So I got that charge. That was the reason why, second-degree robbery. So
wow.
This is at the same time in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where the flood hits.
Oh, sure.
The giant flood that wipes out.
Yeah. A lot.
All of Cedar Rapids.
Right.
So this was in November, and there's a very long legal process, right? And I think the floods happened in like May of 2008 or April or something in the beginning of 2008, which was right around the time that I would have been going to court and start to figure things out. The flood washed away all of our records. Like the courthouse sits in the middle of an island in the middle of the river, and all of the records and things are completely washed away and lost. So they're like, we can't do anything until we find records and figure out like what's going on. And this was before things were digital.
Right.
So a lot of it's really hard copy paper. And so it took until I think October or November before they figured out my case. And they said, based on the circumstances and the deposition, we don't think you were really trying to rob the cabbie.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a violent person.
There hasn't been a history.
There's zero history of violence.
Right.
There's only history of alcohol.
Right.
Because in college and things I mentioned, I had been in trouble with the law with alcohol. And essentially the judge at the time says, we're not worried about you. You didn't rob anybody, but you have a problem with alcohol. So we're going to send you to jail. We're going to send you to jail for 90 days.
Whoa.
We're not going to charge you anything. We're going to drop down your felony charge. So it's going to be a simple misdemeanor. I think it was, I don't think I know. It was like a fighting charge, an assault charge.
Oh, okay.
Misdemeanor assault charge, which is still serious.
Yeah, still not ideal.
Because we got into a fight and he got some scrapes and bruises from the altercation.
Okay.
So the judge says you have 90 days in jail.
No. Were you just dumbfounded? How is this possible?
I was like, that can't be. There's got to be a way to get out of it. There's no way. I was still very selfish at this point. I was praying that God would take this away.
Yeah, right.
Like this can't be.
For too.
That's what I was praying for, and I was just thinking about myself though. Still, and so that's a long time to go to jail. And I was like, if this is Like that was final. There's no getting around it.
Yeah, there's nothing to be able to appeal that. You're going.
So I was like, let's go. I need to go right away. That, though? Very scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I have an idea.
I said, let's go right away. So I went in October of 2008. I think this timeline's about right. Like as soon as it was figured out, it was like October, and I was like, let's go. So I was in jail October through January from 2008, I believe, right into beginning of 2009.
What'd Brooke say when you were like, well, got to go to the slammer?
So that was a really hard time.
Yeah.
It challenged our relationship. But she was supportive, supportive of getting it over with.
Sure.
Like go now.
And still staying together.
Yeah. We were like, I don't know, we probably had questions at that time, but we're like,
what are you going to do?
We lived together.
Right.
You know, like we were crazy and did all this dumb stuff together. We made our own bed. Now it's time to sleep in it.
Wow.
So I missed Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and, Halloween for whatever it's worth that year because I was in jail. And this is where Transamerica comes in a little bit.
Right.
That was a period of time in my life where I had just left Transamerica. So I was gone for like a year from Transamerica, and a very good friend and colleague had heard about my situation. She worked at Transamerica. She's like, Gabe, I don't think you're a robber. You didn't try to rob anybody. You're not a bad person. Crazy situation.
Right.
Come work for me. And I said, that's great. And I worked it out that I could get work release so that I could leave whenever my shift started, and I had to be back whenever my shift was over. And this lady, Amy at Transamerica, she's like, Gabe, if that's the circumstances, she goes, you can show up the minute we open. If you want to be here at 7 a.m. and you can stay till 7 p.m., you'll work 12-hour days, 5 days a week if you want, so that you can be out, but you'll work.
Yeah.
And then I had to go back. So I had a work release that Monday through Friday, I got out.
You were working.
I had to get out.
But you had to be so thankful.
Very thankful.
Yeah.
Like very thankful. So that made the weekends very long and very hard. And it was, I've got a thing called jail diaries that I wrote because I got to get out every day. I'd sit at my computer, and over a lunch break, I would write, whether it was lyrics to songs, I would write, or I was writing what I was feeling in there. And I've gone back and read these a few times, and it brings back some crazy memories. But it was while I was in jail that I started reading books like crazy. Here's a crazy story.
Okay.
I'd have a book shipped in like every couple of days.
I love this.
Because I would read it. And I had so many books, Phillip, coming in that the jailers, on multiple occasions, the jail shut down and they came and searched my room because they thought that I was smuggling drugs in with these books.
Right. And you were just consuming them.
Yeah, there's like, nobody reads like this. What are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm really reading. Like, I'm legit reading. And I had some fiction books. I got the Bible. We'll talk about that in a moment. And a lot of like exploring my faith books. The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel.
Oh, yeah. Good book.
Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis.
Ooh, deep books.
Very deep. Yeah. And that paired with a pastor named Kurt Juergensmeyer, who's where my mother went to church, was coming to visit me during the weekends and asking me about my faith. And really asking some tough questions. At the same time, I was reading the Bible, and I had nothing better to do than read, right? And it was right around Thanksgiving, which was almost a year to the day after the event happened, that I was in jail one night. It was a Saturday, obviously. And I got down on my knees and I just prayed to receive the Holy Spirit in my life. And I confessed every sin that I'd ever thought that I could ever, from the time that I was little, everything I could ever think of, I just spilled it out to God. I was crying in my my jail cell.
Give me goosebumps. This is so good.
It was like 40 degrees in these rooms too. I haven't even mentioned this, 45 degrees because the heat didn't work. Because of the flood, they hadn't fixed the heat. Right. And so freezing cold, crying on my knees in jail, asking God,
begging the Lord to save you.
To save me.
Yes. That is a story.
And so the next day, I called my wife.
What a testimony. No, girlfriend at the time.
Thank you. Yep. Yeah, I called Brooke, my girlfriend at the time, and she was with my parents at Thanksgiving. because they were hosting Thanksgiving, and Brooke's family doesn't live around here. So she was spending Thanksgiving with my family, and I was in jail.
Yeah.
And I told her, I was like, Brooke, I accepted Jesus last night. Like, I am done living for me.
I'm living for him.
I'm living for him to the best of my ability.
Right.
And she started crying, and she said, so did I.
No, that's my favorite part.
She said it the same night. Both of us.
Me tears.
So it was like she was crying and I was crying, and like she accepted Jesus the same night I did. And we didn't talk about it.
Right.
We didn't coordinate efforts to receive Jesus the same night.
Right. That was totally a gift from him.
It really was. Now, we both had people working in our lives. My mother was talking to her, and my pastor was talking to me, and all directions were pointing us to that, right? But we both accepted the same night. And so from that day forward, we were changed people.
Oh,
it didn't mean we didn't have struggles and challenges and have sin in our life, because that's not what the Bible says. So we are sinners, right? In need of a Savior. And so thankful for that Savior. But my mindset shifted that night and slowly became more sanctified throughout my life. And that was how it happened.
Unbelievable. What a testimony. But you're still working at Transamerica too.
Yeah, and so I've been there ever since.
Every time you got out of your work release, every Monday, 7:00, you're probably just waiting for that bell to hit.
100%.
Who would drive you? You would drive yourself?
I drove myself.
Okay, so you had a car.
Yeah,
so
they had a tracker. They were like...
You had an ankle bracelet or something?
They knew... I didn't have an ankle bracelet, but they knew when my shift started. They knew when my shift ended, and they had the phone number to my boss.
Okay.
And so they would check in periodically to make sure that I wasn't leaving and I was coming. And they said, if you mess this up, you'll tack on. Like, you'll get tacked on another 60, 90 days, 9 months, whatever. You don't want to mess up.
You're not the average person that go to jail, though.
No, I'm not. And that was an experience in there, right? You're surrounded by so I'm in a county jail, but there are a lot of transients that come through.
Sure.
And people
probably
that
bad
are
people. Very
bad. There was a murderer who was in the cell with me that was moving from one jail to another. There were several.
When was that? Before or after Jesus?
Before. Okay. This would have been before. He was, and I remember him because he was on a CPAP machine. And so he had this breathing thing all night, and I never slept while he was with me because it was so loud and annoying. I had lots of roommates. I was in there longer than anybody in that jail. Wow. I was the one in there longer than anybody. I didn't shave the entire time I was in there, so I grew a nice beard. And people would be like, dude, how long you been in here? And I was like, it felt like a movie, man. Yeah. It felt like a movie.
Castaway.
It was crazy time.
Unbelievable. But God used that to totally soften your heart.
100%. 100%.
Wow.
Without that in my life, without that slap upside the head and me going to jail, I don't know that my life would have changed. I don't know if I'd be alive, Phillip. I was a
running
mess.
Hard.
I was running hard on straight diesel alcohol, getting after it. And I'm so thankful that I messed up so hard.
Yeah. Oh, there's not a lot of people that can say that, but I love the story. I'm glad you went into it. I think that's probably another reason why the people, listeners, are like, that's why he wants someone.
So I've only shared that a couple of times in my entire life.
Well, then, this is a good podcast.
The first time I ever shared it was in front of about 300 men at a men's steak and corn feed at our church.
Yes, just last year or something.
A couple years ago.
Okay.
I've always been pretty private about it because it's embarrassing.
Yeah. Dude, it's God's story, though.
I know. And from me sharing it at that men's event, I heard of some other men who have come to know Christ because of it.
So cool.
And so I'm just more comfortable with it. I care less about what people think of me because of that. Right. I know who I am.
And
I know where I'm going.
If they're going to judge you because of that, you're not going to be good friends anyway.
You nailed it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So now you get out of jail. Mm-hmm. 2009.
Yeah.
Yep. 2009.
Yeah.
And then you and Brooke get married shortly after.
Yeah. So the pastor who was visiting me in my church was like, hey, Kurt Juergensmeyer.
Yeah.
And he's, you guys are living together. You're living in sin.
Yeah. Let's talk through that. And we had accepted Christ, and he laid out for us what it says in the Bible and the biblical approach towards marriage. Mm-hmm. And we we're like, yeah, okay, let's get married. And so we decided in June of 2009. Yeah, June of 2009. We're like, okay, let's get married. And so we had a little ceremony, just my family, her family, and just a quick ceremony to get married and get it on paper so that
we weren't living in that. Yeah. So we had a bigger ceremony in April of the following year, April 17th, which is, we were married twice, right? Like the official and then the public display. So it's always been fun which one do we celebrate?
That's right. Both.
We kind of celebrate both, which is fun.
That's right.
So that's how we got married.
That's good. Okay. So then, so shortly after that, so your career in Transamerica is starting to grow, I'm sure. When anybody spends 12 hours a day for 5 days a week, that's dedication. Yeah. So I could see how you could start growing your profession as well. Mm-hmm. So when did you guys have your first baby? How long were you married?
So we'd been married and we'd been trying to get pregnant for a long time. That was another God working through us, faith, a moment for us. It took us several years. Evelyn was born in 2013. Because she's 11,
Okay,
going to be 12. So there was a long time from 2009 until 2013. We tried all 4 or 5 years. We went through lots of struggles with that.
Sure.
But God blessed us with Evelyn in August 5th of 2013, and then Augustus came along 5 years later. We had that same challenge.
Yeah.
5 years later, August 24th of 2018.
Wow. What a blessing.
Yeah.
That you get both of those. And there's a little bit of a struggle to get them. So you just really feel so
God has blessed us with challenges that at the end of that challenge is an incredible blessing.
Yeah, right.
Which is really what our faith is based on, is that we've got life here on earth, challenges, and the eternal blessing awaits us.
Right.
And we know that the blessings that we have aren't the same as that eternal blessing, but we felt a little piece of that, right? With Ava and marriage and Augustus and struggles for the thing that we've been wanting and needing in our lives. Yeah.
So cool. All right. So let's go back to guitar. So now you start strumming for a little bit different purpose.
Yeah.
But you've always had that desire, you've always had that gift, and now you're using it for the Lord. So tell me how that transitioned.
So I was playing in a band before jail, and then after jail. These were still my friends. So I played in Bound to Be was the name of our band. I still played with the guys. We actually gigged out for several years after that. But it was a different approach by me at these events, gigs. So, we would start playing in some cases 9 or 10 p.m. and you play till 1 or 8 p.m. to midnight, right? Yep. My life before then was I would just get after it hard. Mm-hmm. And then
full throttle
diesel. But after that, I didn't want to do that anymore. Uh-huh. So there was a period of time where I avoided playing for a while because I didn't want to get back into
that rut. Right.
But I loved playing music and I loved my guys. Mm-hmm. And so I started playing music again, and I was exposed again to some of these things that were challenging in my life. Mm. And so I had to learn how to approach the bar scene from my new life.
Perspective. Right.
It doesn't mean that I never had another beer.
Yeah.
Because I did. And it doesn't mean that I never even had any steps back, because there were a couple where I'm like, I shouldn't have done that last night. Mm. I shouldn't have drank like that last night. Mm-hmm. It never got to the point like it had prior.
Right.
But there were a couple steps back. As is with many people who have addictions, relapses. I had a couple of relapses along the way, but I never, ever lost my faith. And the faith is the only thing that allowed me to feel the forgiveness of Christ because of what I did and allow me to move forward.
Yeah, right.
Without that relapse would have set me right back on that old path.
Right. Spiraling downwards.
Yeah. But thank God for the good news that I was like, all right, done.
Right.
Back on track.
Yeah, you were tripping forward instead of tripping backwards.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. I was tripping forward.
Yeah.
And so we played for a long time together, and slowly I started to that wasn't even. I could have a beer with the guys, and I could see them,
Yeah, they could see that you're changed.
I think so.
Right.
I think so. But at the same time, I was also beginning to play at church with Pastor Kurt. So I started leading worship right shortly after getting out of jail, in addition to playing music with the guys. So I was leading worship at church, and it was such a different feeling than playing out at the bars, Wow. And I was hooked. I knew that I want to play music for the rest of my life in one way or another. And the satisfaction that you get from glorifying God with music is an amazing thing. And I'm so grateful that I get to do it.
Right.
And I've been leading worship or playing in worship bands ever since then, really, on and off. You know, I had to move churches when we moved to Ankeny. So there was like a year or two where I didn't because we were still finding our way, our church.
I get it.
But I quickly got plugged in at Lakeside Fellowship. Shout out Lakeside. And
all
have been leading there.
Listeners,
Yeah.
you know, they're not thousands. I'll tell you that. Don't get your hopes up.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So this is really interesting because, you know, like when you hear somebody's story, you see it in a different perspective. But I can see how God has really given you the gift of being in a hard situation, like playing at a bar, and yet being in a different, like not being in this world, right? You're in this world, but not of this world.
Yes.
And that was kind of an environment where I feel like he's pushed you. And so I can see how that really correlates to your wholesaling. Like I'm in this world, but I'm not of this world. And like, it's just really cool to see how that's now like, that's kind of like your mojo. Like you can be in hard situations and yet still glorify God.
Yeah.
We all can do that. But I feel like he's really equipped you in really specific aspects of your life. And you've done a really good job to glorify him. So
Yeah, I try. I mean, yeah, that's the hope.
okay. And so there was a time where you reached out to me, or I was going to do some guy's trip, and you were like, okay, I want to come. Right.
Yeah.
I was so pumped.
Yeah.
There was 4 guys. There were 6 guys total that went up to Minnesota, and we just had the best time. But I want to tell this story because in a lot of the trips that I'll curate for guys, for sure, a lot of times they have no idea what you're going to do. And everyone fills out this survey. I'm kind of giving way too much here, but you fill out the survey, and one of it is like, who's your emergency contact? Well, newsflash, I don't need your emergency contact. I don't feel like we ever do anything that risky. But what I do want the emergency contact with is because I need some backstory. Like I need, what is their favorite soda? What is their favorite chips? Like, and I work with, you know, your spouse in order to do that. Well, one of the things, because you don't know what you're doing, I'll tell the spouse everything we're going to do. Yeah. So, but you would have no idea. Brooke knew. And one thing when I called her, I was like, hey, here's our itinerary. And in this one, we were going to do a couple cool things. One, we were going to go glass blowing, which is, who can say they've gone glass blowing?
Yeah.
Gabe Chamberlin
Yes,
can.
sir.
And then we were going to do dog sledding, which is so fun. Skijoring, which is kind of similar. And then one thing we were going to do is a sauna and ice plunge.
Yeah.
And immediately she was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. And you just laugh. I was like, well, tell me more. And she was like, oh, one of Gabe's biggest fears is cold water.
Yeah,
and so I was like, oh boy, like, good to know. Thanks for letting me know. But so we go out to Minnesota and we do this whole thing. And again, we don't even tell everybody what's happening until we're kind of doing it.
Yeah.
So as we're driving up, we were kind of talking about like, how's God refined you and what things is like he molded you into the person you are. And you shared that story. It was awesome. And other guys were kind of sharing their kind of testimony of how God's kind of really molded them into that. And I was like, okay, we're going to go glass blowing, like to kind of emulate of like, hey, it was hot and we went through the furnace and now we have something beautiful on the other side. And so that's that. And then that evening we had awesome conversation. And then the next morning we go get up and then we go to the ice and cold plunge. And you never tipped your hand to say that you were scared or nervous, right? But I guarantee you were like, what are we getting ourselves into? So tell us about that. So we're driving to, I can't remember sauna. It's called Sauna Poppy. You can look it up, but I don't think that's what it's called, but that's his company. So Sauna Strong or something. I'm not sure, but we're driving there. Tell us your thoughts on that, because I want to hear it.
Yeah. I said to Brooke before this event, like, because I didn't know what was going to happen.
That's right.
I said, I hope we're not jumping out of an airplane, and I hope we're not jumping into cold water. And so I
wish I could have been a fly on the wall to see her face.
And she didn't tell me anything. So I had no idea. She kept a really good secret. And so when we found out we were going to do this, you know, I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I'm in this event. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll get over it. So I was like, you know, I'll just do it. I was of that mindset.
Right.
But
I really appreciate, because a lot of people are like, I'm not doing it.
I was ready to do it. reluctantly, because just the cold water hitting my back, or like when I jump in a cold lake, it's the worst. Like
it's the worst.
I do
no
not
one wants
like
to do
it.
that.
It's
and you paid for it.
I paid for it. Oh my gosh. And so I remember thinking like, all right, like I'll watch somebody else do it, and then I'll try this.
Yeah.
And boy, that was an experience.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just reverse this a little bit. So it's Gabe's turn. I think I've done it. I think Ryan did it at that point.
Yeah.
And then it was Gabe's turn.
Yeah.
And you could tell he was reluctant. I think that's the word I would use.
Yeah.
And I remember the owner like walks up. He's like, I need you to say that you can do this. Mm-hmm. And I remember you kind of like shaking your head. Yes. Kind of like, and he's like, no, I need you to verbally say you can do this. And then you were like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget this, Gabe, for as long as I live. You look over at me and you go, if I black out, will you come get me?
Yes. I was worried. I was legit like, because I had just put my feet in. And maybe I just I just kind of gotten in. I'm like, this is way colder than I was expecting, and I felt like I could pass out because I was going to hold my breath. And I've got a history of like,
oh, you do?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Passing out, not like like my brain goes crazy where sometimes where I'll see a broken limb, and if I see like a broken limb on TV or sports, I'll get all queasy.
You'll reset on us.
I will, and so I felt the blackness closing in when I touched that cold water.
Yeah.
It was so cold.
And you did it, dude. I was so proud of you.
Yeah.
Not only did you do it that time, you did it 3 other times.
Yeah.
I only did it, I think I did it 3 times. You ended up doing it 4 times.
Yeah, maybe.
So proud of you.
It was exhilarating.
Oh, yeah.
After you do it, you're like, because we went outside and we did the actual, it was like 5 degrees outside.
Yes. And we went to a sauna, which was like 200 degrees. Like I remember Chris was like baking his like calf because it was right next to the furnace.
So that back and forth, it was incredible. And this, it was exhilarating, that coldness and how you felt so great. Any pain you had was gone.
Yeah. Yeah. You didn't have time to think about pain.
You did not. You did not. It was incredible. Okay. Yeah.
So then we just had the greatest weekend.
It was fun.
We ended up going, so we ended up going dog sledding, super fun. And then we also then went skijoring. If you don't know about skijoring, you just have to look it up. But after we got home from that, I think is when we gave everyone like letters of affirmation from their families and loved ones and like mentors and stuff. And I feel like you had the biggest packet. Like it was just a huge packet I got to give you. And honestly, like if I were to choose, go to the ice bath or read some of these letters, for some reason I would pick the ice bath. Like it's hard to read those. It's such an edifying thing, but there's, we don't get that much. And so to be able to read some of those letters, it's a hard thing. And I feel like you almost had the biggest, not aha moment, but like you were touched probably the most from those letters.
Definitely.
And I remember after that, we had a really fun dinner, ate in an igloo at the end, but had a really fun dinner. I remember you talking about those letters. So I'd like you to speak to that. Yeah,
those letters were one of those moments in my life that I'll never forget. Again, like I've got those letters saved in a plastic bag in my safe right now. Because they meant so much to me. And from my dad and my brother and my mom and my sister, right? But then some random people, like people from church and people like from my past. These letters just explaining and saying how they feel about you. I've never had anybody do anything like that. So to see, and some of them were more challenging than others, see, some of the words that somebody wrote would be like, I never even knew that you thought that way.
Right.
But it was like, just so you realize that you make an impact on people.
Without even knowing it.
Because I didn't know. And so there was that aspect of it, that you're making an impact on people way more than you know. And then there was also an affirmation of things like music, like every single letter, I think, every letter was like, Gabe, you have a gift from God to play and sing. Continue to do it. And we love hearing you, listening to you, and something of that.
Wow.
And so it was just really affirming, like, I am
where God wants me to be.
I'm impacting people.
Yep.
I'm doing what I love. I've got a job that I enjoy. I love it. And I'm playing music. Like, wow, what a life.
Yeah, right.
And so those letters were,
that's good.
I've opened them up once since then to reread them, and it had the same feeling.
Wow.
Same feeling.
So cool.
Yeah, I'll have those forever. Those will go with me to my grave.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah.
All right, Gabe Chamberlin, what other thoughts? So if you could rewind and give yourself some advice when you were, let's say, 18, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
I would probably point to scripture, and I would say, read James 4:7 and don't ever forget it. Right?
Yeah.
Humble yourself before the Lord. Resist the devil, or resist the evil and the temptation in your life, and it will flee. It's just, life is too short, and it goes so fast.
Right.
And it's easy to get sucked in by this world. Enjoy your job, enjoy your family, and enjoy your friends, and just live a life that honors and glorifies him.
Oh, it's so good. Isn't it great, though, how I don't think I would have listened to myself even then. And like God so graciously uses the experiences in our life to be able to point us to himself. Like, I just think that's so loving.
Yeah.
He uses my own issues and then shows me how I can love him even more.
100%.
Oh, I just love it. Dude, Gabe, I love you, brother.
Love you too.
Thank you so much for being a part of this.
It's cool.
I love just having this. I'm going to reference this. I'm going to give this to other people just to be able to see, like, you're in this world, but you're not of this world. You're a man on a mission. You're kind, you're caring, you love people, and you respect people. So I appreciate you. Thank you for being uncommon.
Thank you for being uncommon. This has been awesome. This is fun.
We'll have to do it again. And if you have or listeners ever feel like you have an uncommon story, I guarantee you do. I'd love to hear it. So reach out, give us just a shout out. I would love to connect and hear what your uncommon story is. Until next time, you've been listening to the Uncommon Wealth Podcast. I've been your host, Phillip Ramsey. Go be uncommon. Thanks for listening.
That's all for this episode, brought to you by Uncommon Wealth Partners. Be sure to visit uncommonwealth.com to learn more about our services. Don't miss an episode as we introduce you to inspiring people who are actively pursuing an uncommon life.